What is up everyone? In this video we'll do a run through of the Pit of Saron, which is the second dungeon within Frozen Halls. Note that to be able to enter, everyone in the party must have completed the Forge of Souls. Upon entering, you will notice that there are a lot of trash mobs, but don't worry because most of them are skippable. Here the party can either go right or left, and this will determine who the first boss will be. In this run, the group decided to go left, and the first boss will be Ick, which is this guy right here. I suggest going right if you or the party members are doing the chain quest where you have to free some slaves. Ick will be guarded by a couple of Plagueborn horrors who use the following abilities. Toxic Waste, which the mob casts in a party yard area spawning a pool of acid that does nature damage to players stepping in it. Postulant Flesh, on the other hand, is a single target ability that poisons a player, damaging them over time for 10 seconds with nature damage. Last is Blight Bomb, which they will cast when they are close to dying. Now this ability will sacrifice their remaining HP, allowing them to explode and deal massive fire damage over a 20-yard radius. Alright, so our first boss will be Ick and Krick, and the ability pool of this boss also includes Toxic Waste and Postulant Flesh. Now apart from these two abilities, Ick will also randomly use the following. Explosive Barrage, where Ick will start summoning exploding orbs where players are standing, and these orbs will grow and explode after 3 seconds, dealing AoE arcane damage. Players simply need to move around, avoiding these for 18 seconds. Another is Poison Nova, where Ick basically creates a poison cloud explosion, damaging players within 15 yards and inflicting them with damage over time every 3 seconds for 21 seconds. Pursuit, where Ick will randomly target players for 12 seconds while having a slower movement speed but a higher damage. Ick will also be immune to taunt during this time, so if a player other than the tank is targeted, he or she simply needs to kite Ick during the duration. The second boss is Forgemaster Garfrost, and his ability pool includes Permafrost, which is a stacking debuff that continuously ticks every 2 seconds, dealing frost damage to players within his line of sight and significantly increasing the frost damage that they receive. He also uses Throw Saronite, where he hurls a boulder at a random player, knocking them back and dealing physical damage to them. At 66% HP, Garfrost will leap at one of the forges and he will cast Forge Frozen Blade, which increases his frost damage significantly. During this time, players can hide from Garfrost's line of sight using the Saronite boulder to clear the stacks of Permafrost. Garfrost also uses Thundering Stomp, which knocks back players in melee range and stuns them for 2 seconds. At 33% HP, Garfrost will again leap at another forge and start casting Forge Frostborn Mace, which will again significantly increase his frost damage. Another ability is Chilling Wave, which deals frost damage to players in front of Garfrost in a 65-yard cone. Lastly, Garfrost will cast Deep Freeze on a random player, slowing his or her movement speed and dealing significant frost damage to them after 14 seconds. On the way to the last boss, the group will encounter different groups of trash mobs, the first of which are these Emergers. The most important ones to watch out for are the Flame Bearers, who can blink and cast Hellfire, which deals AoE fire damage to themselves and players around them every second for 15 seconds. It is important to interrupt this, especially if they get in range of the healer. Apart from that, this mob also uses Fireball. The Wrathbringers, on the other hand, use Blight, which is a disease that deals nature damage to a target every 3 seconds throughout 21 seconds. If the disease is not cleansed during its duration, it will jump to another player. Lastly, the Deathbringers, who use Empowered Shadow Bolt, which deals shadow damage to 2 targets that are both near each other. There are also these Fallen Warriors that use Demoralizing Shout, which reduces melee attack power, Arcane Slice, which basically reduces their target's armor, and Shield Block, which on the other hand increases their block chance. These Wrathbone Cold Wraiths, on the other hand, will use Frostbolt, which deals frost damage while slowing the target. They also use a Freezing Circle, which summons a circle of ice that freezes players around. The last section on the way to the last boss is this Tunnel of Ice. Upon entering the tunnel, debris of ice will start falling from above, and their landing point will be marked by these glowing circles on the ground. Simply avoid standing on the marks to not get hit and knocked back by the debris of ice. Within the tunnel, the group will encounter more trash mobs, including these Fallen Warriors, which we already encountered earlier, and there are also these Wrathbone skeletons that just uses melee attacks. At the middle of the tunnel, there is a platform that is safe from falling ice debris, and in Heroic, you will encounter this disturbed glacial revenant that uses Avalanche, which instantly deals massive frost damage. One interesting thing to note is that if the group manages to make it through the tunnel without anyone getting hit by an ice debris, everyone will get the Don't Look Up achievement. Alright, so upon exiting the ice tunnel, we are greeted by the last boss of Pit of Saron, which is Scourgelord Tyrannus and his Frostworm Rhymefang. Before the encounter starts, there will be a bit of dialogue, so I will take this time to start going through the abilities, as during the encounter, a lot of things will be happening at the same time. Tyrannus will use the following abilities. Overlord's Brand, where he brands a player, and if that player is a DPS, his or her damage to Tyrannus will be mirrored to Tyrannus' target, which is normally the tank. So in this instance, the branded DPS should pause attacking, and if the brand is on the healer on the other hand, heals towards the tank will be mirrored to Tyrannus, so just avoid overhealing. Forceful Smash, on the other hand, deals massive physical damage and knocks back the target quite a bit far. He uses this before using his last ability, which is Unholy Power, which greatly increases his damage but also slows his movement speed for 10 seconds. During the encounter, Rhymefang will continuously cast Icy Blast, which deals frost damage upon impact and creates an icy patch on the ground. Any unit within the icy patch is greatly slowed and will receive frost damage every 2 seconds. The tank can use this to efficiently kite Tyrannus whenever he uses Unholy Power to be able to avoid his devastating damage. Rhymefang will also use Hoarfrost, where it will target a random player and mark them with an arrow above their head. This player should distance himself or herself from the rest of the group by at least 8 yards, as once Hoarfrost hits that player, he or she, along with other players within 8 yards, will receive massive frost damage and will be stunned for 5 seconds. As a tank, what I usually do is angle my back and align it with the edge of an icy patch so that once I am knocked back by Forceful Smash and Tyrannus uses Unholy Power, he will be slowed at the edge of an icy patch as he moves towards me while still allowing the melee DPSers to attack him from one side. And that pretty much covers our guide for the Pit of Saron. If you guys found this helpful and informative, please hit the like and subscribe button as well as the bell icon to keep updated with our guides. Thank you, and I'll catch you in our Halls of Reflection guide. Cheers, guys!